I could not tell you how many times I've seen, heard, and read that modern gaming is like a chore in the last year. And yeah, there's a nugget of truth to that, but there's also a whole lot of horseshit and some corn surrounding it. But it was one line in particular from fellow YouTuber November Hotel that struck me as more than a little tone deaf.
Older games rarely would waste your time though. They knew that people had a limited time to play games, and that people are interested in playing other games.
So, older games rarely wasted your time, huh? 2-hour tutorial in Kingdom Hearts 2? The entirety of Castlevania 2?
If you could please, hurry the fuck up.
Bro, fighting in arcade games literally read your inputs just to make it more difficult so that they can take all of your money, time, and bitches.
You suck.
I'm just saying here, as someone who grew up with Power Rangers, Mortal Kombat, and Sonic the Hedgehog, they always wasted your fucking time, and they always made you grind that shit out. You clearly didn't get a gold chocobo, or play chocobo hot and cold, and you definitely didn't dodge birds on a chocobo. You know what? I'd be surprised if you even knew what a fucking chocobo was. What's that? I'm cherry-picking RPG examples? Okay, fair. Let's change genres. Why am I being spat out like my brothers and sisters on a Saturday night every time I get a star in Mario 64? That would be like if every time I wanted to finish Mario 1-3, I had to replay through Mario 1-1 and 1-2 first. Do you see what the hell I'm talking about? Gaming as a medium has always had us doing chores like it was our mom and dad. This topic isn't even a recent thing. Egoraptor of all people was bitching about this a decade ago on Sequelitis, and he was partially correct then, just as everybody is partially correct now. We've just circled back around to the dumpster fire of a topic because at least it keeps us warm. So with all of that being said, I typically wouldn't have been moved to make a full-ass YouTube video because I think I've made my point clear. But then Fall Brothel makes this runtime argument.
Modern games that love to waste your time, and only focus on getting you to spend as much time as possible inside their game. Why? Well, because if a game comes out and it has a 12-hour runtime, gaming journalists and basement dwellers will publicly crucify the game for not being long enough.
Yeah, again, not really, pimp. The most entertaining game I played in a ham, that's a hot-ass minute, was Shredder's Revenge with my younger bros. Dibs on Leo, by the way. That game is less than 5 hours long, but it gave me one of my favorite memories that I'll treasure for the rest of my life. You know what you did, Ben. See what I mean, though? Baldur's Gate 3 is huge and getting mad love alongside Mortal Kombat 1 and Street Fighter 6, alongside smaller games like the aforementioned Shredder's Revenge. We still have good games that are short and long being made, yearly. But let's head backwards. There have always been games trying to be epics back in the day, and there's always been games trying to be just a notch on the virtual bedpost. Then there's the whole Elden Ring and Dark Souls comparison, and nah, I'm actually completely with you. I'm not touching Elden Ring again until the DLC drops, but I also replay a ton of Dark Souls each year, until I get the Lord Vessel. And after that, I barely finish my run because the PvP is pretty barren nowadays, and I'm not having fun with any of the Great Lord areas because, as many people have said, that appears to be where the game is at its most unfinished. And I'm sorry, but new or old, I don't think many games truly respect the player's time. As genuinely intelligent and well put together as the Marriott's video was, there's an argument to be made that none of the video games in that essay respected the player's time that much. I mean, the opening area of Dark Souls, spoiler warning for those of you who like to be surprised when you're getting played, is most likely going to have you pancaked by the Asylum Demon, and then Indiana Jones 5 seconds later. But they also talked a lot about the actual chore list that live service games have nowadays. So you're telling me that in order to unlock this cool cosmetic that actually has an effect on gameplay, I've got to grind out all of these different requirements and get good enough to reach a certain rank for each one? Wow, that sounds exactly like Halo Infinite, but I'm actually describing Sonic Adventure 2 and the multiplayer costumes. You also use a clip of Diablo 4 in the video as an example of bad grinding, but my brother, Diablo grinds have always been the Florida of game grinds. They've forever sucked. That's partly why I stopped playing them. Blizzard has always done that random loot shit specifically to waste your time. And that's not a Blizzard only thing. Every MMO does that. You're gonna tell me the monsters that spawn only once every 4 real-ass fucking days for the entire server in Final Fantasy XI, with the good items not even being guaranteed drops, wasn't done to waste not only my time, but also the time of thousands of other people? Come on, man. So what I'm basically trying to say here is that unlike the classic MMO grind, I don't necessarily have to participate in the modern-day Battle Pass stuff. Because unlike that classic MMO grind, Battle Pass loot tends to be purely aesthetic. I don't tend to give half a damn about any of the cosmetics, with a K, in Mortal Kombat 1, but I end up unlocking them anyway just because I enjoy popping people's heads off with Liu Kang. I also have a bunch of friends and students who play Fortnite, Fall Guys, and or Overwatch 2 that just so happen to finish up their season's pass or unlocks by happenstance. The minute those little incentives are the reason you keep showing up to the game every day is the minute that they become a chore. To me, it's a lot like dieting and working out, because the minute that I'm trying to hit an exact number on my lift or scale is the minute it's not really as fun as it used to be, and it takes a lot of discipline for me to maintain it. To some people, though, that's not a chore, but a challenge. And the challenge is what pushes them forward. Not everybody is like that, though, and that's where self-awareness and the whole point of why I decided to make this video comes in. Guys, you gotta start getting more self-aware as a consumer. But here, let me give you an example using Dark Souls as the litmus test. Like most of you, I got jumped by the Asylum Demon, then got Indiana Jones, and then, when I finally made it out of the starting area, wandered right down to the catacombs, all within the first half hour. And you know what I did? I kept going back to the catacombs and dying over and over again until I finally got good enough at the game itself to kill whatever was in my way, and from there I just started using an online guide. Because, sorry, I'm not here for whatever narrative Miyazaki's trying to tell me. I was here because I really loved the way this game played, and I took it personally that the bosses were still alive. Now, would some say I'm a little punk bitch for using a guide to tell me where all the traps and cool items are? Absolutely. But listen, simply put, I'm here because I know myself as a consumer, a competitor, and as a general cunt. Everything people are saying about the trappings of modern gaming has always been there in one form or another. We're just, and this is a good thing, becoming more savvy, connected, and vocal about our views as time goes on. And there are definitely valid criticisms with how many of the AAA games are being made nowadays. But on the whole, for most people, I'm gonna say that it's less about the nostalgia and the crappy business tactics, and more about the fact that they're just not getting what they need out of video games anymore. But like, those people need to figure that out for themselves, you know what I'm saying? And for the record, I'm not trying to say that Ottoman doesn't have their own tastes figured out. They actually seem pretty self-aware. I'm just trying to point out that I've seen this argument everywhere, but I personally haven't seen anyone bring up the fact that we as individuals play a key role in what entertainment we choose to participate in. But let me give another non-video game example. I'm a huge stickler when it comes to fight scenes, so check out this one from Avengers Endgame, and for copyright purposes, I had to change all of the sounds, so enjoy. And now compare that with a fight scene from The Raid 2. Okay, I think we can all agree on a couple of things here. For one thing, both fight scenes are really well done. They're also both much better with my edit. But more importantly, you can tell that Avengers Endgame had a ton of money put into it. But why would I say the Raid 2 fights are better? It's because I've seen so many fight scenes that I'm aware of all the little nuances that go into shooting a scene like that. In the Raid, there's so much little story details being added, there's so much in the characters that are doing the fighting, there's a bunch of little camera tricks that they do while they're shooting it, and that's not even getting into the stellar choreography that continually pushes the plot forward. There's so many little bits that go into this. And that's not to say that Avengers Endgame was lacking in any of that either. There's just one huge difference. Avengers Endgame is 90% CGI. And typically that wouldn't be so bad, because personally I'm not one of those guys that like to crap on CGI. However, I did something incredibly stupid and it ruined the experience for me. I watched one behind-the-scenes shot of Iron Man in his pajamas, and the magic of that character is ruined for me because I love watching action play out in reality as best it can. And now I know that Robert Downey Jr. can't even be bothered to wear a cosplay. And thanks to that one little decision, I've become numb to CGI fights. I've seen it or have enough knowledge now that I no longer can take anything truly inspiring from experiencing CGI fights. And now that I have this personal insight, I can make a decision as to whether or not I will forgive it or just choose not to participate. I genuinely believe most people are in this same boat with modern gaming, and they're just not taking a step back far enough to realize it's not so much that gaming and its formula has changed, but that they've grown themselves. And it has fucking nothing to do with getting old. If you play 10 games in 1 year, and one person plays 3 of the same games you did, but it takes them 10 years to do it, you still have more experience and accumulated knowledge with games in the 1 year than they did in a decade. Age isn't the factor, it's exposure. The more you experience something, the more you're gonna catch on to its trends. I'll die on the hill that it's less about modern gaming sucking and more that people are getting more and more refined tastes in their entertainment. But there's always gonna be a bunch of fucking parrots in their ears spouting off the same hot take. When in reality, most of the people saying all that have watched more modern gaming than played it. So I get the bandwagon appeal. Some games you can just smell it on them that they're not wearing enough deodorant, or, equally common scenario these days, too much deodorant. Sometimes you just gotta get up in there and sniff it, but I'ma tell you right now, that corn chip and salt scent smells exactly as bad now as the excess Axe brand Phoenix did back then. Please, put some respect on Granddaddy AVGN, who made a living playing through bullshit cryptic games and probably inspired your inspirations to talk about them now. It's always been there, but thanks to Granddad, we're growing up in a time where we are more aware of it at a younger age. If there was ever a golden age of gaming, it wasn't just because of the games. It was because of our collective inexperience alongside the good releases. Mega Man X is old enough to have clinical depression this December. Halo 2 is old enough to get drafted into the latest Call of Duty, and Dark Souls is, according to todaysparent.com, old enough to understand the basics of what happens during sex and birth. Okay, son, so here's what Tri-Finger Butthole really means. Each of those releases could be icons for a golden era of gaming, but that era also had shit like The Wizard of Oz, Drake of the 99 Dragons, and Dark Souls 2 coming out. I've even lived through people flipping their opinion on games. One of my all-time favorites from the Halo 3 era was Spider-Man Web of Shadows, which still, to this day, has the absolute best Spider-Man gameplay ever. It was genuinely like they combined the freedom and expression of movement with Spider-Man alongside the freedom and expression of Devil May Cry, and this game got completely roasted back in the day. Oh, but lo and behold now, it's a cult classic to anyone who actually fucking played it. Does any of what I'm saying excuse the fact that a bunch of modern games are being released with day one patches bigger than my SAT scores? No, of course not. Just like it doesn't excuse loot boxes or the fact that Pokemon is still selling 2 copies of the same game for the same price as Elden Ring and Street Fighter 6.
Can't keep getting away with it!
That shit is insane. And I'm sorry, but I still feel like I'm getting hustled by these guys just as much as I used to by LJN. And when you think about it, trading card games have been doing this shit to us our whole lives with the whole booster pack thing. This crap has always been there, and it's always been about using up your time and your money. But only now do I get the suspicion that we as a community will finally be able to do something about it. And it's because of people like November Hotel that keeps calling out companies trying to pull a fast one on us. Plot twist, I'm actually on November Hotel's side about all of this shit. I'm just playing devil's advocate that we've always been getting hustled, and it's only just now that we're passing along enough evolutionary traits like a working fucking brain and immunity to shinies that we're making progress on getting game companies to cut that shit out. So I'm not coming at it like a hater. I actually completely agree with them. I'm just pointing out you're kinda leaving out the whole story if you think games never tried to play us. But, you know what? That's all I got. I've ranted for way too long, and if you made it this far, thank you so much for spending your time watching my blonde, left-handed ass counterpick a very valid viewpoint on modern entertainment. It means a lot because I personally value time a great deal, but I'm done taking yours for now. If you want to help out, just do you. A million better YouTubers have already told you the way to support people. Anyway, I'm bowing out. Thank you so much again for watching, and I'll see you all later.